John Mulaney with quicksand didn't end up panning out into a real threat.
What kind of farm did the grandparents have?
Cattle.
Cattle farm. Did they have a tractor?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Quite a few.
Did you get to fuck with them?
Fuck with the cows?
No, the tractors.
Oh, I mean, I never, like, drove them around on my own and farmed, but I would, like, when I was a kid, I'd ride around in them with my grandpa and, you know, do some work with him because it was just kind of neat to go down to the country and see, like, a large cattle farm operation in
What'd they do with the tractors? Like, I don't know what, like, they just push poop around or something? Like, clean the asphalt? What does a tractor do in a cattle farm?
Like baling hay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so a lot of hay baling. I'm sure there's a lot more he was doing, like digging shit for fence posts or whatever the hell he was doing. Because these are like main, like, industrial tractors, not like
Not a state tractor. No, these are... Yeah.
These are big tractors because they had quite a few cattle. I don't remember the actual number, but there were a lot. And that was just neat. I really liked cows as a kid because it was cool to go up to an animal that's so huge and also either afraid of you or completely indifferent. And it was neat to, like, be able to go touch her and be like, this thing's like the biggest animal I've ever been close to, and it doesn't give a shit. Like,
and
I don't know.
You can touch them?
Oh yeah, like I just walk right up to I just walk around and touch them.
I went to a cattle farm as an adult. Call me like 32, and someone said they'd pay me $100 if I could ride a cow, and I'm like,
I'll give you $1,000.
Yeah, I didn't try and ride them. Like,
so, dude, I couldn't even touch them, right? Let alone getting on their back. I think I've told this story before. I'm like, you know, going by, not looking, and then darting closer, and I was unable to fool a cow. I was outsmarted every time, and they're quicker over short distances than you might guess. And
yes, they definitely are. Well, the way to touch them is you wait until they're all by the trough, and then when they're eating, you could be, you know, a well-known cattle serial killer, and they won't move. Like, if they're eating, they'll go walk right up to you. You can walk right up to them and touch them. Like, as long as it's not like really skittish and there's a little one near.
Are well-known cattle serial killers.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we were all serial killers.
Yeah, I would always feed them with, like, we call it sweet feed, in like a bucket, and they would come, like, you shake it in the bucket, and they're really smart, so they'll come to that sound. That's how we, like, corralled them all together when we took those pictures of Wings, like, hanging out with cows and stuff. We just, like, poured the sweet feed out and got them to come.
I never had the thing that some little kids had where, like, when they see the animals, they don't want to eat them anymore. I can still remember, like, the question I'd ask is, like, point at different cows and be like, when's that one going to get eaten? My grandpa would be like, well... that's just a little one. It'll probably be a little while before we do anything with that one. And it was like, when's that one going to get eaten? Well, that's one of my bulls. We're not going to eat that one. I'll probably sell them off in a few years. And it was just like, I don't know, it was neat seeing, like, this is the food I like to eat, wandering around me.
That would have been the opposite.
I've milked cows before. That was cool to see how that works. Once
my father had a client, and I don't know exactly what the deal was because I was just a kid, but I think that the client wasn't like an amazing success. So we would go over and get free dinner, I think, in part of a way to, like, pay the bill. And he had a restaurant/petting farm, like petting zoo, and, like, so inside.
Unlikely bedfellows.
That's the funny part. Like, yeah, like. In hindsight, I'm like, this is so unsanitary.
Yeah, this is like, disgusting.
You know, and they'd be like, dude, you should come on Tuesday night. He's going to shear the sheep. So, like, the owner of the restaurant would shear the sheep. And I don't know what shearing a sheep is like, if this amount of blood is customary, but I suspect he's bad at it. And
there should be no blood. None.
Oh, there was blood. There was an.
I don't even want to hear about that.
As a child, I was concerned and like, man, I think he was just like you're supposed to shave it and leave like maybe a touch. He just like, and the thing when he finished had cuts and wounds all over him, like his back and his belly and shit.
Yeah, that's shitty.
This is like a pre-dinner show.
No wonder he couldn't afford his bills.
Yeah. So, and he didn't shear but my favorite was...
Well, I'm going to serve dinner, and then we're going to have a learn to shear. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I stored it. He had baby calves, like and we'd feed them with, like, a bottle. They had, like, a bottle, but it was bigger than a human baby bottle. And they would also suck your thumb, the calves, and their tongues were much bigger than you might guess. You know, it's like 8 times a human tongue or something. And when they suck your thumb, you can't help, in my opinion, to fall in love with this calf. Like you just hope it's never food and becomes somebody's pet.
Sounds like it might have sucked more than your thumb.
Yeah, very skilled tongues. Those bovines.
But yeah, he had that. He had a few arcade machines, a petting zoo, and it was one of my favorite restaurants. But they didn't have root beer.
I helped a calf. Or, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you'd order root beer, and they'd say, "Well, we have birch beer." Like that's the same. No, birch beer.
I would try it. I don't know what that is.
Really? Oh, birch beer is a poor man's root beer, I suppose. I don't know. They're not the same thing at all.
Oh. Anyway, I well, we're still on cows because it's enthralling. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on PK. I've never had one suck any part of me, but I have helped one give. I've helped a cow give birth. I was a cattle OBGYN for a day. Have I ever said that?
You have not.
Okay, so basically, I was probably 16 or 17, and I was down at my grandparents' farm, and my grandpa was like, "Hey, come help me with some shit." And I was like, "Okay." And so we went up to one of the farms, or one of the barns where a bunch of the cattle were, and he's like, "That one over there, 3760 or whatever, because they have the tags, is gonna give birth. So I'm gonna walk it through this thing, lock its head in the I don't know the name of it, lock its head in these like 2 almost like prison bars, but like if you know when Bender grabs what?
It's a chute and a head gate. A head
gate. So what it looks like basically is if you've ever watched Futurama where you see Bender kind of grab 2 prison bars and bend them so they're slightly out, it's kind of like that. Just enough space that you can sneak the cow's head through there, and then you close them around the neck so it's not squeezing it or touching it, but they can't pull back out through.
It's kind of like a Chinese finger trap.
Yeah, like a Chinese finger trap a bit. And so he goes through the chute, gets in the gate, and my grandpa was like, "All right, I'm going to do something from the front here," or he had to administer some medicine or something near the head, and he was like, "You can't do this because if it thrashes or something," or I don't know what the danger was, but he said, "You go behind it." And so the legs were coming out first. I guess that's not the way it's supposed to happen. It's supposed to come out legs last, maybe. And so it was just like a cow vag about 5 feet off the ground, and then like 4 crisscrossed little cow feet in there. And in my head, I'm picturing like, there is no fucking way we're pulling this thing out of this cow vag. Like there's just physics, you know? And so wrap a chain around all of the legs sticking out of the vagina and tighten that up, a literal chain wrapped around it. And then I was standing there, and my grandpa's like, "All right, when I give the word, you're going to pull." And I'm like, how hard do I pull? Like just a gentle pull so I don't ruin this cow's like vagina, or just like a big pull? He's like, "You're going to have to give it a real good pull." And I was like, "Okay." And so he's like, "Right now." And so I just go as hard as I could, pulling this cow. I can see it coming out. I can see the ooze, the afterbirth, just all of it just oozing out like a little bit as it's coming, and I pull, and I kind of pictured it would be almost like the legs would come out and it would like drip down, and then like another piece and it'd come out, and then it would just kind of like fall like the remaining 2 feet and just go plop. No, yank it out, and it was like all at once this thing came out of the cow, all of it 5 feet in the air, and then boom, just collapses. And I thought for a second, I'm like, "Oh fuck, there's no way that thing, like, it just began life with a 5-foot fall with all of its legs tied up. Like, that's not a fun way to begin it." And as soon as I undid the chain, like, it kind of got like licked by its mother, get all that afterbirth shit off, and it was walking relatively soon. But the amount of shit that really solidified what afterbirth is. And so I am prepared for the amount that a human woman can push out, because the amount that it was a fifth of an Olympic swimming pool of goo that came out in a big sack from this thing. And the sack was, of course, already punctured because it was leaking. And it's just the most grim water balloon ever.
I've seen a human woman's afterbirth before. When I was visiting with Dan Tanner, the guy who invented Tannerite, his wife just had a baby, and they did like a tub birth with a midwife or some shit, and he had the afterbirth in a garbage bag in the back of his truck to use for bear bait. And so I got to see a little bit of that. I wish I hadn't.
That's probably good bear bait.
Do you really want to be training bear to like like
Go
eat
after
human
pregnant
flesh
women.
and like human blood. And like I don't think that you want them to
Actually,
develop a taste.
You
for
can't
that.
bring women hunting anymore. No, he'll smell you if you're on one of your cycles.
That's what happened to the Grizzly Man. He brought his. He had been fine. You ever watch Grizzly Man?
Yes, I've watched sections of that on YouTube. The guy who ended up dying because he was talking to bears.
He died because his girlfriend was on her period. That's why he died.
Really, I did not know that.
Yeah. And there was some male bear that like wasn't able to get food normally, so he was starved and stuff.
The real reason he died is because he was fucking around in bear country.
Well,
That's
you could
the
say
real
that about
reason
everything. You'd be like, the real reason they died is because they bought that plane ticket and went up there to begin with. We don't have wings. Like, come on, you're gonna do dangerous shit, but like, the real reason he died, because he'd been doing it for like 12 years, was because he brought his girlfriend with him and she was on her period, and that didn't end well.
Really upset the bears. I didn't like. I watched enough of it to see like he was treating bears like disrespectful 5th grade students, or like even like 2nd grade students, where like if like a kid's being mouthy and they're 8 years old, you're kind of like, hey, stop doing that. Like, watch